You've conducted research that shows that professors and PhD programs are much more apt to be responsive to white males over females and minorities for prospects for PhD programs, especially in the higher paying fields, engineering or STEM related things. Talk a little bit about your findings and how it actually affects education and the corporate world, organizations.
We conducted what we call an audit study. So an audit study is when you want to study a real world phenomena and there's really no way to do it in a controlled laboratory environment. But you still want the control of being able to change certain things and keep certain things consistent for everybody. So what we did was we created an experiment in the real world. We created a database of professors, of over 6,000 professors, one from each PhD granting department in the US, based off of US News and World Report's top 260 universities. I think excluding 2 that were not on the mainland of the US. And we sent an email to each of those professors. The email was identical. The only difference was who sent the email. The name of the sender of this email was either male or female, and white, black, Indian, Chinese, or Hispanic sounding. So we pre-tested these names, ensured that in a separate sample, people said, I believe this name to represent a female Hispanic, or and sent these emails out requesting for more information about applying to a PhD program. What we were interested in is seeing the responses to these emails and whether the request for help was was actually responded to with an email, and whether they were willing to help. And as you so nicely summarized, we compared our white male group to all others combined. That's how we designed our study. So we had white males versus non-white males. And we did find that white males were more likely to get a response than the non-white males. And it was particularly true, actually, rather painfully. This is the segment where it was most true, that effect. The effect was largest was in the discipline of business. All 3 of my co-authors, Modupe Akinola at the Columbia Business School and Katie Milkman at Wharton, all 3 of us work in business schools. We did this across all disciplines, art history, social work, everything. Business came out as the most biased, and private universities were more biased than public universities. All 3 of us work at private universities. So this was a little bit of that wasn't what we were quite going for. But it was a good reminder to us that we need to pay attention to our own environments. We work with colleagues who are so committed to egalitarian environments and to the value of creating a level playing field. So committed to that. And yet to see this response suggests, this set of findings suggests that this isn't a conscious, intentional difference we're seeing. We don't have the data, and this kind of, we're just getting emails, so we don't know what people's conscious or unconscious was doing. But to us, we are hypothesizing that what we're seeing is a reflection of unconscious bias, not conscious bias. And I think the implication it has for education and for business is it points us to what I like to call pathway behaviors in addition to gateway. What's the difference? Gateway decisions and behaviors are those big ones, like the hiring of a person, the admission of a person to a university, the sort of very formal, there's an application, there's a law that dictates what should happen. This is a structured situation. Those are gateway decisions. In the United States, we've made tremendous progress. We're not done, but we've made tremendous progress in the last 10, 20, 50 years on improving gateway processes. Pathway processes, pathway behaviors are these micro moments There are these little informal things that just happen along the pathway, like whether an email is responded to. We don't know when an email isn't responded to what it means. Did they ever get the email? Were they on vacation? Did I send it to the wrong person? Am I not a good enough candidate? We don't know. It's just a little micro moment. There's no law that says every email must be responded to. I know I can't keep up with my inbox. But cumulative patterns with pathway behaviors, whether they be things like emails or nonverbal behaviors, or who gets listened to in a meeting, who gets cut off when they're speaking, whose advice gets taken seriously, these are little pathway moments that cumulatively can make a difference in an academic career and in a corporate career. There's a theory in sociology called cumulative disadvantage, and how over time this can add up to really serious implications for a career. And I think what our study does is illustrate where some of these pathway moments are taking place. In my field of academia, there is a formal admissions process. You don't need to informally email a professor to get into a PhD program. That's definitely a pathway moment. It's not a gateway. But you know what? Those emails do make a difference. If a professor recognizes your name, it could make a difference. And so pathways can affect gateways in the end. And I think that's what I hope our study helps us notice is we've made progress on the gateways, we've got more work to do on the pathways. And I'm not even sure what that looks like, but I think us just starting to look and pay attention, because that's where the unconscious bias is going to really have an effect, is all that pathway stuff.
And those nuanced pathway moments can really affect the individual.
Yes.
And their level of confidence or feeling of competence.
Absolutely. And the work on self-fulfilling prophecy says it can even affect our performance. Once it affects our confidence, it can actually affect our performance. Then we perform at less than our capability, and then others don't see our capability, and then we don't get the job, and so on. Absolutely. And it also affects, there's great research showing how it affects our physiology. The stress level, particularly in moments of uncertainty. For example, if you don't know if you've just been a victim of bias or not, if a black person doesn't know, and in that moment of ambiguity is grappling with what just happened, was that racist or wasn't it? It wasn't clear. That has a huge impact on stress levels. It's actually less stressful physiologically to have a moment of apparent racism as opposed to ambiguous racism. It's really important physiologically to manage the stress that comes in these moments, particularly of unconscious bias.